Hi, good evening. I am Poem Praise 2, and I like to welcome you to an evening edition read. Certainly, peace and blessings be upon you and your family this evening. Now, I do have an evening read for you today. We are going to be coming out of I have a message to the black man. I have a message to the black man. For the section that I'm going to read to you today, not going to hold you too long. It is entitled, If the Civilized Man Fails to Perform His Duty, What Must Be Done? And it reads as such. The duty of the civilized man is to teach civilization to the uncivilized, the arts and sciences of civilized people and countries of advanced civilization. A divine messenger of God Allah, raised among his people with the divine message, is held responsible for its delivery. His message teaches spiritual civilization, which is important to the success of a nation and society. According to history, the people who refuse to accept divine guidance are his message sent by his messenger, are classified as uncivilized, are savages. A well-educated, cultured, and courteous people make a beautiful society when it is spiritual. Good manners come from the civilized man who does not fail to perform his duty. There are several civilizations. We have a wicked one and a righteous one. It is righteous civilization that is in the workings now. We all have been well trained into the wicked civilization. Now we must be trained into the knowledge of the righteous one. We must have a righteous, trained, civilized man who will not fail to perform his duty to us in guiding and teaching us. My people in America are under the searchlight of the righteous, who are offering to them the right guidance to a supreme civilization of righteousness never witnessed before on earth. The white race has failed to perform its duty of civilizing the American so-called Negroes. Of course, they have been their slaves for many centuries, and the slave masters have rights over them as long as they are slaves. However, if the slave masters free their slaves, not in words, but in deeds, the slave masters should provide the once slaves with the right civilization and with everything necessary for them to start an independent life as their slave masters have. Certainly, the so-called Negroes are being schooled. But is this education the equal of that of their slave masters? No, the so-called Negroes are still begging for equal education. After blinding them to the knowledge of self and their own kind for 400 years, the slave masters refused to civilize the so-called Negroes into the knowledge of themselves, of which they were robbed. The slave masters are also, persecute and hinder anyone who tries to perform this most rightful duty. I will continue to say that as long as the so-called Negroes do not know who they really are and do not have the knowledge to free themselves from their slave masters' names and religion. They cannot be considered free or civilized. To this, their slave masters will agree. Some of the so-called Negroes are ignorant of this important advantage of having their own nations, names. They think there is nothing to a name. And there is not to the ones they are using. But the Bible says a good name is better than gold. To continue to bear the slave masters' names makes my people the property of their slave masters or their children. And we can never hope to receive equal recognition in the civilized world. Will a free people accept slaves as their equal? The so-called Negroes must be truly civilized, and the right civilized man has not performed his duty until this is accomplished. However, the so-called Negro is free to receive his or her own if they just will allow fear and ignorance. If they just will not allow fear and ignorance to stand in their way. It has been seen from the little chance they have had to get a little education. They have shown and proved that they are the original people who are also asleep and in great need of the right civilized man who will perform his duty of awakening them. The so-called Negroes fear being deprived of food, clothing, and shelter, and also the usual smile of the white slave masters' children, prevent them from seeking the true knowledge of their own nation's civilization. They must drop the slave master's name and religion, which both they have and do not understand. This means nothing but slavery. Of course, some preachers and politicians who live off the ignorance of their people are opposed to the right civilization of our people. You must know that you have not been rightfully civilized. No one can enslave another who has equal education, in parentheses, knowledge. My people lack science of the right kind. Allah is here to give you and me a superior knowledge of things and a country to ourselves. A separation of the so-called Negroes from their slave masters' children is a must. It is the only solution to our problem. It was the only solution, according to the Bible, for Israel and the Egyptians, and it will prove to be the only solution for America and her slaves, whom she mockingly calls her citizens without granting citizenship. We must keep this in our minds at all times. We are actually being mocked. I think it is a disgrace for us for ever being satisfied with only a servant's part. Should not we, as a people, want for ourselves what other civilized nations have? It takes a true friend or friends to help another or others to enjoy equal freedom, justice, and equality. Today, for the first time in our history, we have the true friend in Allah, in parentheses, who came in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, end parentheses, and the Nation of Islam. If we only would submit and accept him. It is written, Revelation 14:1, that 144,000 of us will accept and return to our God and people, and the rest of my people will go down with the enemies of Allah. For this sad prophecy of the loss of my people, I write what I am writing, hoping perhaps that you may be able to beat the old prophecy predictions by making the truth so simple that a fool can understand it. You must be rightfully civilized. You must go back to your own people and country. But not one of you can return with what you have. You must know that this is a time of our separation and the judgment of this world. In parentheses, the Caucasian race. End parentheses. That you and I have known. Therefore, Allah has said to me that the time is right for you and me to accept our own, the whole planet Earth. What are you waiting for? The destruction? Come, let us reason together, but you cannot until you have a thorough knowledge of self. Who are you waiting for to teach you the knowledge of self? Surely not your slave masters, who blinded you to the knowledge. The white racist civilization will never work for us. This does complete the section that I have for you, coming out of Message to the Blackman today. So I want for you to hit the like button, subscribe, share, hit that notification bell. You'll know when Poem Praise 2 is coming with something for you. So certainly I want for you to be well, to be safe, to be blessed, and it be at thy will. Poem Praise 2 will talk and see you soon. So until then, later, y'all. All right. I'll see you guys soon. Later.